I thought today we could take a look at a lens that I've had for going on a year now, so I feel somewhat qualified to talk about it for a minute or two, or 10 or 12. So yeah, this isn't a brand new lens or anything like that, and it's for the micro four thirds sensor, and micro four thirds might be dead, so it's probably a moot point anyway. But if you are one of those unfortunate tools who bought into the micro four thirds sensor, this lens might be useful for you. And another reason why it still might be useful is the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and the GH5S. You know, micro four thirds isn't dead. That's stupid. Okay, so today I wanted to take a look at the Lumix G 12 to 35 millimeter. This is the version 1. There is a version 2 of this lens, and the major difference between version 1 and version 2 has to do with the stabilization. So they added in this like dual IS, so working alongside the IBIS in the camera and the OIS in the lens. They've like done these like updated software algorithms and whatnot to kind of adaptively learn and adjust smoothness or stabilization based on the situation. They did add through a firmware update for the version 1 a version of that dual IS, but it's not as advanced as the version 2. The version 2 is about $1,000, excuse me, not $1,000, that would be crazy, $100 more than version 1. Version 1 you can find on Amazon new for about 885 bucks. So the version 2 is about just under $1,000. If you're on Panasonic, so if you're using a G5 or something like that, or G9, G85 Panasonic camera with in-body stabilization, maybe it's worth it to spend the extra $100 for the version 2. If, like me, you are filming, your micro four thirds camera is the BMPCC, or if you're on the BMPCC 4K, or if you're on the GH5S, I don't think it's worth it to get the version 2 because you're not getting the benefit of that dual stabilization, because none of those cameras have in-body stabilization. And I was just watching a comparison between the two lenses on Max Uriev's channel, and they did some kind of quick tests. It wasn't anything like super comprehensive, but it looked like the version 1 actually was a little bit sharper than the version 2. So I would definitely go for image quality over the stabilization. Either one is a relevant lens if you're on micro four thirds, if you've got the BMC 4K, if you've got the old school BMC, if you've got the GH5S. This is a great zoom lens. So this is a good, like a super useful zoom range. So 12 to 35, if you take into consideration the 2x crop of micro four thirds, you're basically looking at your kind of standard 24 to 70 millimeter full frame. On the BMPCC, it's something more like a 36 to about 100 millimeter. So in that case, on the BMC, it's not even like a wide angle, it's more like a standard to telephoto. But even so, you know, a 35 is a really good focal length on the BMPCC. It's really kind of a flattering focal length for people's faces. And then obviously the more you zoom in, the more flattering it gets, they say. Yeah, so it's a pretty pricey lens, approaching $1,000 for the version 1, or you know, $900 for the version 1. But if you compare it to full frame equivalents like 24 to 70 from Canon or Sigma or Tamron, those lenses, the Canon for instance is about $1,600, and the Sigma Art lens is about $1,400, and then yeah, the Tamron's a little bit cheaper than that. So it still undercuts those by quite a fair bit, and it's also quite a bit smaller, obviously, for micro four thirds, mirrorless. It's not super heavy, but it's, you know, it's definitely not a plasticky kit lens type feel. The body construction is nice, metal. The zoom ring is rubberized, but the focus ring is metal, so you kind of have a different feel. I guess it makes it easier to kind of tell as you're reaching in front which is which. Another nice feature is that it has the OIS has a switch on it, so if you're on a stabilizer or if you're on a tripod, you can just turn the OIS off and you can save a little battery life on your camera. and maybe there's some sort of wonky over stabilization going on that you don't want to have. It's not weatherized or weather sealed, so you can see here there's not like an O-ring or a gasket or anything to keep water out. It's kind of dusty. And it is a constant aperture, so f2.8 throughout the focal range. So from 12 to 35, you're at a constant 2.8, so you don't lose any light as you zoom in. So like, that's kind of what you get with a cheaper zoom lens, especially like a kit lens. They typically, range from like a 3.5 to a 5.6 or something like that. So as you zoom in, the aperture closes down. Another good thing, and I'll do some tests for you guys, this doesn't exhibit a lot of focus breathing or really any focus breathing. The smaller your sensor, it seems to kind of zoom past a lot of the focus breathing problems you get at certain focal lengths. So that might be the BMPCC with its super 16mm sensor really doing a lot of favors. But in my experience, it has been pretty nice, and that's a really good thing for video. So as you're doing some rack focuses, the image stays the same. One bad thing about it, and it's really common with micro four thirds photography lenses, or really any mirrorless system photography lenses, is that the focus system is focused by wire. So what that means is that, say you're focusing on something that's relatively close to you and you want to rack focus to something far away, if you focus, like if you pull focus like fast, instead of just moving from point A to point B more quickly, it actually moves further. And then if you move it slow, instead of moving from point A to point B slower, it just doesn't move as far. That's not really a good feature for video. So you really can't really adjust the speed with which you focus from one point to another. So if you try to do it fast, you're gonna just jump a huge distance. And so it's better to kind of just do it nice and easy, so you really nail the focus. I don't really have any other lens systems to compare it to. I have a 22.5mm prime lens for micro four thirds, so I can just zoom this into 22.5 and do some comparisons between the way these two lenses look. This is the Voigtlander Nokton lens for micro four thirds, which is a really cool lens. We can take a look at this one separately another day. I don't know what else to say. A really cool lens if you're looking to upgrade, from a kit lens. I definitely would recommend going with, especially if you're looking to get a zoom. A 24 to 70 for video is a really nice zoom range. So you're going to replace, all those primes. You could get a 24mm prime, a 35mm prime, a 50, and that's, how many did I say? 1, 2. That's like 3 or 4 lenses or something that you're replacing with one. And if you can look at it that way, each prime lens is going to be obviously cheaper than one zoom, but once you're adding, and getting 3 to 4 primes, you're probably approaching, if not exceeding, the cost of one zoom lens. So it's definitely a good way to get into it, especially also for different jobs. It's nice to have a zoom lens. So you don't have to switch out multiple prime lenses for different situations. You can just zoom in and out. If you're doing more narrative type work, same thing. It can save you a lot of time on set, swapping lenses. If you're like basically a skeleton crew and you don't have like a first and second AC to help you swap lenses out and take care of them, you can just leave the one lens on and zoom. Also, if the script or the mood or the tone of the film calls for it, having like zoom shots, then there you go. You got a zoom lens. So I would recommend it, and the more lenses, the better. And any other questions, comments, concerns you have, also would be interested to hear them. So thanks for watching this video, and see you next time.